Peter Breder is Sarah Marshall's boyfriend, and it's been a while since he's been anything else but that. Even his job as a music composer for the hit television show Crime Scene, Scene of the Crime, is attached to show lead Sarah Marshall. And now she wants nothing to do with him. What does he have left? Who is he without Sarah Marshall? It's indeed getting hard to believe things are going to get better. This is Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
That just felt like a trailer.
Yeah, I know. I felt guilty because I felt like for the Naked Gun one, I went a little too far where I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. What am I doing? So like, let me get back to like an actual synopsis and then
back to the basics. I mean, hey, I'm not criticizing. I just felt like I just watched like a 90s, meet Johnny. He's a, what was it, like that episode of South Park that did the Rob Schneider? Where it's like, Rob Schneider was an animal. He was a woman. And now he's a stapler.
Rob Schneider is a stapler, rated PG-13.
Exactly.
I just love the detail of that joke of like every movie that he did was PG-13. It was like not
as Happy Madison as it gets.
Yeah. It's not too edgy. We got to make sure everyone goes sees it. Okay, so welcome to Movies That Changed Us. I'm Altaf.
And I'm Chris.
If you're listening to this on Spotify or wherever you listen to our podcasts, know that you can also watch us on YouTube at Movies That Changed Us.
Today we're going to talk about how Forgetting Sarah Marshall changed us. And we do have also a Patreon if anyone likes the show and wants to support us. You can go to patreon.com/movies that changed us, where you can get commentary tracks weekly where Altaf and I record ourselves watching movies and you can watch along with us. This time we're going to be doing Nice Dude Classics. So if you're an OG Nice Dude fan who watched the reactions, we're going to be reacting to a lot of old school classic comedies that we used to watch already. And so today we're going to be recording The Naked Gun, which we just did as a podcast, but this time you're going to be actually watching it with us again, even though you already watched it with us in the reaction forms. So I feel a clusterfuck.
Yeah, I feel like that was my bad planning wise, because I was the one who created the poll and I didn't think about it, but it's okay. Yeah, we've done a commentary track so far as of the time recording this on Holy Grail and Blazing Saddles. Both movies where it was like our first time revisiting it since the reaction. So it was very exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, go check that out. Chris, what art moved you this week?
Oh boy, I got one that's juicy, and I'm sure you know what it's going to be. We just watched the second episode of season 2 of The Last of Us. We can't really give anything away in case anyone hasn't watched it or doesn't know, isn't familiar with the story or hasn't played the games, whatever, but a pretty big pivotal story beat happens that, I got to see happen all over again because I'm a huge fan of the game that it's adapting.
I think I'll ask you this without spoiling anything. As a big fan of the game, were you satisfied?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm keeping it vague, but it was a polarizing choice when it happened in the game, in the story.
Yeah.
And it's probably about as polarizing now. I haven't really heard a lot of feedback from fans of the show who are not familiar with the video game, but it's pretty wild what happens.
I feel like fans of the show who are not familiar with the video game, Chris and I, for context for people who don't know, Chris and I have both played the games. Chris has played the games, played the second game multiple times. He's beat the second game multiple times. And when the game was coming out, Last of Us 2, very controversial. I will say I've been reading like feedback on this recent episode, and it's so much more positive than it was when initially the game came out. So it's just interesting. I think
that checks out, yeah.
People who are like HBO TV show watchers kind of like are more attuned to this kind of episode. So I knew you were going to bring up Last of Us 2, so I didn't choose that as the art that moved me this week because I was like, okay, Chris will probably cover that. So I cheated. I have 2 choices. That's
not cheating. I have more than one all the time, by the way.
That's fair. I have Detroiters, which is a Tim Robinson TV show on Netflix that came before I Think You Should Leave. And it's about him and Sam Richardson play these 2 ad execs who run an ad company. And if you've seen I Think You Should Leave and you know Tim Robinson's sense of humor, it's that style of humor, but it's for like a narrative actual like show, and it's not like a sketch comedy show, which I think You Should Leave is. So that's interesting, but it still has the same weird fucking sense of humor. I watched the first episode a few days ago because my friend kept recommending it because it just got on Netflix recently. And I love it.
So where can we watch it?
It's on Netflix. My friend, I'll shout him out, Rock. He was the one who was recommending this show to me because he was like, I know you're an I Think You Should Leave fan. You got to check out Detroiters. Yeah, it's just fucking awesome.
Can I just say real quick that like you recommending, or not recommending, but shouting out your friend Rock makes listeners think that like, oh, just Dwayne Johnson. Like you're just shouting him out. He recommended you this show.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson is my friend. I know I've slandered him in the past, but I love him. He's a homie, you know?
Yeah.
Shout out to all his products, by the way. Terramana, the energy drink that he has. I love, Mana all the way, you know?
Wait, Dwayne Johnson has an energy drink?
Yeah, he does.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
No free ads.
Yeah. Yeah, we won't get too into it. You guys got to look it up yourselves. We're not shouting it out.
The second thing I wanted to shout out is a movie that, Chris, if you don't see this in theaters, if you wait too long and see this at home, I'm going to be so upset. It's Sinners.
I'd be upset if you stole from me. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I don't know. I just feel like you and I hold each other to different standards, dude.
Okay, Sinners is the best movie I've seen all year. It's the best movie I've seen in a while, actually. It's an original movie by Ryan Coogler. It's a vampire movie. You've probably heard of it. Ryan Coogler is one of my favorite filmmakers. Creed is the reason I moved to LA to pursue filmmaking. It was like so obviously I was kind of biased and in the bag for this movie going in, but it just fucking didn't disappoint, man. It's so...
Well, that's...
good.
Yeah, that's sick. I mean, I've been hearing great things about it, and I really want to see it. My goal is to see it by next week, I think. But I remember as soon as the trailer came out, I was like, oh, that's cool. That's a big budget original movie.
Yeah,
the bar
man.
is low.
Yeah, it's amazing. So go check it out. But it moved me. It was one of those movies that I talk about this sometimes, where I walked out and I felt like I was vibrating. I was like, I can't go to sleep now. I was so excited. Yeah. So, all right, let's get to the main course. Chris, how did Forgetting Sarah Marshall change you?
Well, it's a very light change. And because I think, you just found this out earlier today, but this is only my second time watching the movie ever. This is not a movie that I like am super fond of or grew up with. I really enjoy it. I don't have anything against it, but it just wasn't in my, orbit for a while. And both times I've seen it, I was going through different breakups. So it means something different to me now, because the first time I watched it, I was probably about 21, 22 years old.
Yeah.
And now I'm, going on 30 pretty soon. So there's a couple scenes and a couple moments that kind of hit my soul a little bit. As funny as the movie is, there are a couple parts where I legit had to pause and was like, okay, I gotta chill for a second.
Did you watch it alone? Did you watch it with family?
I watched it alone.
Yeah. I obviously thought of you a lot while watching this movie, especially because there's a specific reason why we're doing this episode. But yeah, I honestly didn't know that this was only your second time watching it. Like for some reason I thought, okay, like he's probably seen, like, I know you don't watch this movie as much as I do, but I thought like you were pretty familiar with this movie.
No. I mean, if you and I haven't really talked about it a whole lot throughout our friendship.
That's true. I guess, yeah. But this is a movie I watch once a year. It's one of my favorite romantic comedies. It's one of my favorite comedies. The reason it sticks out so much to me is because of kind of the reasons you were saying. Like, despite it being kind of a raunchy comedy, it has scenes where I'm like, okay, if someone's actually going through this thing, I can understand why this movie is like oh, this hits home. Like, oh shit, okay,
Yeah.
Because it comes from the heart, and then it also has this like weird thing injected in the middle of it, which is the Dracula musical, and that's like pure passion. It's like someone who really gave a shit put it into this movie, and that's what makes it stand out amongst other raunchy comedies that have been coming out in the Judd Apatow era.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's also just kind of nice to see a movie that is sincerely from a male's perspective going through a breakup.
Yeah, what do you mean?
I think the cliche usually is like the hopeless romantic that goes through heartbreak is usually a woman. I mean, we think of Legally Blonde and other classics like that. And I mean, there's still swingers. There's other good heartbreak movies that exist for sure. But it's nice to see like a raunchy comedy that's just purely about heartbreak and a male.
Swingers is the only other one that I can think about, which is where you see multiple scenes where a guy is just can't stop thinking about his ex and just like breaks out into tears every now and then.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's still like 500 Days of Summer.
I'm talking about like 500 Days of Summer is more like a drama forward, but like I'm talking about just straight comedies, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I'm getting at with this movie in particular. But it's a nice little, it's a breath of fresh air. There's a couple moments, like I said, that are just pretty, like for listeners who don't know, because we kind of addressed it a couple episodes ago. I went through a breakup a couple months ago, and it wasn't a pleasant breakup. Like, it wasn't the kind of typical like, oh, two people didn't see eye to eye and they had a conversation and it ended. It did not end amicably, and it was fairly emotionally traumatizing for me, to be completely honest. I won't get into details about it naturally, but so I think I wanted to watch a movie that dealt with this because I recently moved, just because I wanted to get a breath of fresh air and figure out where I want to take my life and what I'm doing. And so you and I decided to do this podcast virtually. So just in case you missed the last episode, I'm just catching up to speed. But point is, I wanted to do a movie that still was in regards to, you know, reclaiming your identity and building a new life and moving forward after something like that. And so I hadn't seen this movie in a while, and I thought it would be fun to cover.
Yeah, I'm glad you were game for it, because I remember you went through your breakup right after we put up our When Harry Met Sally episode, and we had announced that February was going to be Love Month and we're going to be covering romantic comedies, and then a week later we had to put up on Patreon, guys, Love Month is canceled.
I know. Well, the movies that changed us in general has been a little chaotic since then. You know, we were going to, even a couple weeks after that, we were going to shoot an episode, and I was like mentally on another dimension. You know, I wanted to stick it out. I like the idea of being like, you know what, I need to do this shoot to take my mind off things and, you know, get back to podcasting. But I could not make myself, you know, just pretend everything's fine, you know. And I think back to this movie, though, is I do think it does lean into the ugliness of that sort of thing in a comedic way, but it doesn't shy away from the fact that like heartbreak and those sorts of things are fucked up and ugly. You know, you do stupid shit, or you think stupid shit. You have weird memories. Like your perception of things is on another dimension.
Okay, so let's start here then. Let's start with the pivotal scene of this movie, the breakup scene. Mm-hmm. I think this is probably the most iconic scene of the movie, funny enough. Aside from it being the engine of the movie, it is also the scene that kind of made this movie famous, which is Jason Segel shows hog.
Yeah. God, you got to stop fucking saying that, man. Like, listener, I mean, this might be your first time saying it publicly. So this is just from like me to you. But you do say that a lot. You're like, you think so-and-so's got a big hog? I'm like, what do you fucking like? You need to knock it off now. Okay. Listeners, in the sound off in the comments, tell Altaf to stop saying it.
It would be amazing if everyone in the comments were like, hey, we're all pro hog. Like,
yeah, if you're pro hog, I mean, I guess, yeah, sound off.
Yeah, actually, I don't want the comments. I don't want you now a bunch of comments that just say pro hog. Like, let's not have that happen. Okay. Anyways, so, you know, to give some context, you know how I heard about this movie?
How?
I was a big How I Met Your Mother fan. I still am. And I was watching How I Met Your Mother in high school. And I remember like being like, I love the actor who plays Marshall. And I remember seeing him in movies like Knocked Up or whatever. I hadn't seen Freaks and Geeks at that time. But I was like, Marshall was always my favorite character in How I Met Your Mother. I like Jason Segel a lot. And so I just looked up Jason Segel if he's been in other movies. And Sarah Marshall was one of the first things that popped up. And I remember I was like, oh, it's on Netflix. Let me watch it in high school. And I was like, oh shit, he just shows his penis. Like, it was just so, and then I was just, it was funny to me because then watching the movie, I'm like, oh, this feels like a movie Marshall, the character from How Your Mother, would write. And that kind of made me realize how much of Jason Segel is in Marshall, how much of Jason Segel is obviously in this character, because it's obviously a character like written by him. But anyways, I think I love the breakup scene, and I want you to talk more heavily about it. That's why I'm just prefacing it right now. But I love the breakup scene because it does two things. One is it is heartbreaking, and also it's so fucking funny. Like from the moment the towel drops and how he just says, "I'm not putting clothes on. I know what happens when I put clothes on."
Yeah, he makes it real.
So, watching this scene a couple months after your breakup, how does it make you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I feel for him. I think there's just so much truth in the fact that, because he's like in the movie, he's deep into this relationship. He says 5.5 years, and my relationship was also long term. And I'm not just going to immediately just split hairs and compare him, to mine and whatever. But I think most people can universally relate to this, that especially when you don't expect it, when you're blindsided like that, it's so humiliating. And to lean into that with him being just butt ass naked and thinking that this is like totally fine. Because I think like when you're with someone for a while, you're comfortably gross around them. It's easy to get that way, at least, because it's easy to just lounge around in pajamas or shirtless. Like I spent so much of my time shirtless in my last relationship, like just being gross at home. And so I think it fully embraced that early on with him like eating cereal out of that huge bowl. Yeah. And then his apartment being a mess.
Yeah, and it was so layered. It was just like, okay, no, it's just been a while since you've been with me. So maybe if you're like, here, hold me, embrace me, and that's what she just reveals, there's another guy.
Yeah. Well, there's always that bargaining thing. We have an instinct to bargain. I think like in my experience, because I've been through two, pretty major breakups in my life so far. But I think like there's always that like your brain will play so many tricks on you, and I'm sure listeners who've dealt with this sort of thing can relate, that like you have to weed through so much bullshit, because I think like scientifically it's literally like chemicals in your brain, the same, it's like the same reaction your brain goes through that when you have an addiction and it's taken away from you. It's literally an addiction.
Wow, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, so it's the same like, whatever you want to call it, the same part of you activates where it's wrong, but then your brain will tell you, wait, you want to get this thing again, this attention and affection that you're used to, this comfortability and this like familiarity. But then at the same time, you're trying to move forward, so you're going to do weird shit. And I think like a lot of us try to get through it in like like in the best way possible, right? We're always trying to get through and be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to do this thing. And then like kind of shove down the ugly parts of it,
Yeah.
The ugly sobbing when you're alone, the bargaining that you want to do, like the urge to call or text, the stalking their social media, all that stuff, comes with the package, and it's pretty normal.
Yeah, I think here's the thing. I've never been in a relationship, and so I've never had a breakup, and watching you go through it, obviously as your friend, was very hard. And also it was complicated because as your friend, I wanted to be like, let's get out there, man. Let's get out there tonight. Let's go out. Let's talk to some women. You know what I mean? I didn't do that because two things. One, that's not who you are. And two, I was like, that's probably not the right call right now. And so it was like this feeling of like, what do we do here? You know what I mean? And so that's where I think the Bill Hader character, Brian Breder, his stepbrother, was really interesting. Just this guy coming in and just as insane as a character that is, a guy that like never takes off his leather jacket.
That's the best part. He's just wearing one outfit for virtually the entire movie.
Bill Hader acting like being an alpha male is so funny to me. I don't know why. I know. But he had that like he was just like, listen, man, you need to forget her. You need to move on. You need to figure out your own shit. And then he starts telling her like, listen, we didn't really like her. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I just like, I wasn't that way to you, but I relate to that feeling of like, how do I get him out of this? You know what I mean? And I think this movie shows that at the end of the day, the person going through it is the only one that can get himself out of it.
Yeah, very, very true. Because, like, at least, from Jason Segel's perspective, everyone will tell you everything under the sun of, like, oh, I'm sorry, man. Like you always feel like you don't fucking know what I'm going through. You know what I mean? And people will sympathize, but you'll never feel that, like, I guess, connectivity with people.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's, like, frustrating to accept that, And so, just to be clear, though, for listeners too, Altaf was a fucking stud during this time. I was at my absolute worst. I was at a low point. I was moving out of an apartment, and I had a very short amount of time to move, and I physically could not make myself do it without, like, just melting down. And so Altaf had to kind of witness some of that, and kind of was just being present, just vibing, just watching TV on the side while I was trying to pack up everything. And so just know, for listeners too, who were curious what that was like, that's kind of what happened.
Yeah, I know. It was tough, man. And so, like, it's decided that, like, obviously he sleeps with a bunch of women. That doesn't work. No shit. And he's just decides that he needs to go to Hawaii. And that's just such a brilliant idea for a movie, of a guy having to go through a breakup. So he goes to Hawaii, which is like one of the happiest tropical vacation spots in the world. And he's like, he has like an amazing room, and you just see you cut to him crying on the balcony in front of an amazing sunset. It's like, again, it's heartbreaking, but also really funny. I think that's what I like about this movie. I think Jason Segel, and I'm sure you agree, Chris, Jason Segel was able to tap into something, which is like, he has enough perspective away from the breakup that it's now become funny to him how he acted. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It has like it does a very good balance of where it's not necessarily making fun of his character, but it isn't afraid to embrace, like it's almost like asking the audience, like, we've all been through this shit, right?
He obviously goes to Hawaii. He runs into his ex, the worst situation you could come across.
Yeah, dude.
I want to mention one thing off the top. We're just like not gonna talk about Russell Brand. Like,
yeah.
I think we need to mention him because it's like, okay, I will say this. Really fucking funny in this movie, man. He is so funny, and it's just, that's all I can say about him,
Yeah. He serves the movie's purpose for what's needed.
But I'd be lying if he didn't make me laugh. Like,
yeah.
Okay, anyways, Kristen Bell. I want to know how you feel about her in this movie, how you feel about the way Sarah Marshall's written in this movie. But I'll say right now, I've watched this movie many times. Watching it this time, I was honing in on her performance. Kristen Bell's like fucking amazing in this movie.
Oh, she's perfect in this movie. Yeah. I think her character is portrayed in, obviously it gets worse as the movie goes, as you find out more about her and stuff. But it is interesting though, how like, there were certain layers of her character where she felt like a human being. She wasn't just the cartoon villain of like, oh, I'm the shitty girlfriend that cheated on you. You know what I'm saying? It's not like Jason Segel should blame himself for it necessarily, but there are certain things that he has to take accountability for, that neither person is ever perfect. You need to learn what you need to learn to move forward.
No, it totally. I think that's why this movie's in a weird way, it's very mature, because he could just make her a straight up villain. And there's scenes where he does, but he also has scenes like that confrontation scene, which is Kristen Bell just getting emotional and saying like, don't tell me that I didn't try. I went to therapy. I did this. At the end of the day, you didn't want to help yourself, And there's all these interesting flashbacks of both of them getting this kind of new perspective on what their relationship really was. And I kind of, it's again, it's a movie that I feel like can only be written by someone who's gone through a breakup and has had enough time away from it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I talked to you about this briefly, just to prepare for this episode, but I kind of interpret what Hawaii is in this movie to what Bruges is in the movie In Bruges. And
It's a
for those
great
who haven't
call.
seen In Bruges or haven't seen our episode on In Bruges, Bruges is very much, to summarize it quickly, a metaphor for like purgatory, of that feeling between guilt and self-forgiveness. And I kind of consider Hawaii to be sort of a metaphor for like that kind of weird self-reflective phase one goes through after a breakup, because the thing everyone always tells you after a breakup is like, oh, well, now you got to find yourself again. You got to do things, that you wouldn't normally be able to do. You got to take, be selfish for a while. And it takes a second. It's like a learning curve of like, wait, how do I do that? Because I'm so wired and used to another thing. And so I kind of consider Hawaii to be a metaphor for that feeling. And the character of Sarah Marshall is almost like the equivalent of like the ghost of your ex-girlfriend following you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
At least that's the feeling that it gives you. Because I think, at least in my opinion, that's why a lot of people relate to it. Because, yeah, not everyone's gone on vacations and happen to come across their exes and try to one-up each other and whatever. Usually people just stay the fuck away from each other after a breakup. You know what I mean? But to me, I see it still as the metaphor for like, even if you're physically away from them, their essence, their presence is still following you.
100%. And I'm saying I don't know why I said 100%. Like, I'm like, yeah, dude, I totally get it. Like,
But still, yeah, I get what you're saying.
can I just mention how fucking good it's just like, I want to mention some side characters really quickly, just that
This
love
movie
in
has a lot of great side characters.
As any great studio comedy does, you got to fill your movie up with these like great comedic actors that just add that special sauce, you know what I mean? So it makes this movie not so depressing to watch. So first of all, I want to mention Jonah Hill, another problematic figure nowadays. He's just someone I miss I miss in comedies in general, like that Jonah Hill energy of him coming in and you were like, okay, he's just gonna be fucking amazing in this.
Well, you haven't seen Get Him to the Greek, right?
Yeah, I don't think I will anymore.
It's not. Yeah, well, yeah, no, I know, right? But, it's weird because it's supposed to be within the canon of Forgetting Sarah Marshall. It's a spinoff of it, but he plays a completely different character.
Oh yeah, no, I've heard that. It's a weird sequel, but it really isn't.
Yeah. So it's an interesting movie. No, it wasn't amazing. It was pretty okay.
Oh Jesus, dude, Diddy's in it as well.
Yeah. Oh God, Get Him to the Greek is like a cursed movie.
God, I'll never watch this movie. Okay.
Listen, I don't want to put Jonah Hill in the same league as, what Diddy and Russell Brand are being accused of.
Yeah, and I also don't want to spend time ranking who was worse, but
yeah, but still, that's a hell of a lineup.
Jesus Christ. Okay, so Jonah Hill's great. Obviously, okay, I'll just go fuck myself then is a gift that like has lived on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chris, I think you know who I really want to talk about.
You want to talk about Paul Rudd?
Oh my God, he's so fucking funny.
What's his name again? Kunu or something like that?
I have it written down here. Yeah, his name is Chuck, but he's been trying to get people, the Flyers to get rid of that. His real name is Kunu.
That's so rad. I just seeing him with like tattoos and like kind of bleached, sun bleached hair and his visor, and he forgets who Jason Segel is. I feel like they just let Paul Rudd just kind of do whatever.
The scene where he runs into him at the bar again after doing an entire half day of surf lessons, and Marshall's like, "Oh hey," and he's like, and Paul Rudd's like, "Hey man, Kunu." He's like, "Yeah, we did surf lessons together." And then Kunu's like, "Oh yeah, you're the guy who works at Kaiser Permanente."
Oh, for the record, you said Marshall. I just wanted to let you know.
Oh, damn it. Yeah. But
that might happen. It's okay. It's a Freudian slip. We kind of just see Marshall.
But Paul Rudd's just, I think I've talked about this like with Anchorman as well. He's a fucking chameleon in comedies, man. Like look at Anchorman and look at this character too. Look at Kunu. Like he just fucking disappears.
I know it's weird because we all know the Paul Rudd like energy, like his type. when he's doing the standard short hair kind of semi-charming dude. He's done a lot of those movies, but he can definitely disappear when he wants to.
I think the key to a great Paul Rudd performance is a guy that is good looking, knows he's good looking, but is a complete idiot.
Yeah, he is at his best during those times. Like Ant-Man.
Yeah.
That's probably a good example of that.
100%. And yeah, I don't know. I fucking love Paul Rudd. Jack McBrayer is amazing in it too. I've been watching a lot of 30 Rock recently, and so it was just a pleasure seeing him.
I know, I forgot about him. I feel like he came and went in the 2010s.
Yeah, I mean, he was in Kimmy Schmidt as well, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Oh yeah, I forget it. I saw the couple episodes of that show and I really liked it.
Yeah. He's just fucking amazing. It's like, it's a very Jack McBrayer role, which is like, I'm a very buttoned up Christian boy, but I like to get naughty sometimes.
I know. Well, he's having trouble getting naughty. That's his whole plot line.
Yeah, I know. What does he say? Jesus is between your thighs.
Yeah, I know.
I
forget all of his lines, but they're so wild.
Before we move on to the more of the emotional crux of this movie, I want to shout out one more thing, which is probably the hardest I've laughed in this entire movie. It's William Baldwin as Dr. Hunter Rush.
Oh, I know. It's like they just let him just act out his fantasy of being the lead in a procedural drama.
In Crime Scene of the Crime, where he's like, she's going to have a hard time attending the beauty pageant without a face. And like, and Jason Segel having to be the music composer for that.
Well, it's interesting seeing like, him in like, that's his version of a soulless job, which is just kind of cool. It was kind of a unique twist on that, because usually you see them working like, oh, I'm just working at insurance, or I'm doing, fast food or whatever. But he actually has a pretty cool job on paper, but he's just not really expressing himself the way he wants to.
But you know what though, man? I feel like that's super relatable. Like, if you live in LA and you're trying to pursue something in the arts, you'll always have jobs that are like semi close to what you really want to do, but not quite there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, where it's like in the same field, like you have the skills needed for it that you want to use to do something on your own.
Yeah, it's like I have a job like that, and it's not, I don't hate it as much as, Jason Segel hates that job, but I don't hate my job at all, but it's also not something I really want to do, but it's something I also can't complain about because it's hard to get a job in the arts. And so it's like, I don't know, that aspect of it right now in my life is extremely relatable.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like he seemingly has a lot going on. Like he has good equipment at home. He can just record by himself. He's just very comfortable, and doesn't have that kind of drive to do something cool because he's kind of, comfortable in the mundane.
Let's talk about Mila Kunis' character, Rachel Jensen.
Yeah, she's great.
I remember Rewatchables did an episode on Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and Bill Simmons was saying, like, this kind of woman just doesn't exist. Where he was like, oh, a really pretty, like hotel desk clerk that's just single and is just like roaming around and invites one of the guests of the hotel to come hang out is just like so far-fetched. It was just a really funny thing because like this is like every guy's like dream of like when they go vacation.
Oh, and she loves his Dracula puppet musical.
Yeah. It has that, like, okay, listen, I like Mila Kunis in the movie, but her character has that Along Came Polly vibe, which is like she's a free spirit and it helps him get out of his shell,
Yeah, I think like, it's funny to bring up Along Came Polly because I do kind of have similar plot structures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I brought it up.
Completely different movies. But yeah, I think like her character is very much just used as a vessel for like showing that there's other people out there, and there are people who will check off boxes that you didn't know you had. I saw this Instagram reel that I think I agree with, where it said like, it's better to have a partner that checks off like 6 out of 10 boxes, but is willing to compromise on the remaining 4 than a partner who checks off like 8 or 9 boxes, but won't budge on the other ones.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting take, but What was it though?
Why do you bring this up for Mila Kunis's character?
Because throughout the movie, the whole thing is like there are small little details about her that Jason Segel notices, and it cuts to those flashbacks of him immediately comparing her to his ex, of realizing like, oh shit, Sarah Marshall didn't used to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Can you name one for me?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing with the check, and then immediately cuts back to him like on the red carpet carrying her purse. I even like the use of those little flashbacks because I feel like that's a very real feeling that just people who go through breakups go through, immediately comparing future women to their ex if it's recent.
Yeah, you don't have to get into details, but did you find it's been like a couple months since your breakup? Have you found yourself doing like a postmortem in your head of like certain moments that you thought went a certain way and then it kind of, you've had some perspective? Again, I know it's only been a few months, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think like there were a lot of things that I already knew were red flags and stuff buried deep inside me,
Yeah.
And I think what helped is always saying it out loud. And I wonder if people who've gone through breakups who are listening, can relate to this, that like sometimes when you idealize or romanticize something like that in your head because you're going through the heartbreak and you're like, oh, this person was so perfect and I lost them. But like, there are certain things that you don't want to say out loud to like ruin that.
Yeah. You know what's interesting, man? It's that like, just seeing what Jason Segel's character, Peter Bretter, was going through in this movie. I remember when I first watched it in high school, having very little life experience at all. I was just like, wow, Sarah Marshall's a shitty person. Why is he so broken up about this? And even as I got older, because I'd never been in a relationship, I still didn't have that perspective. And it wasn't until like seeing firsthand you going through a breakup that I realized that, oh man, this is one of the hardest emotionally taxing things anyone could go through. So no shit, even if you're in Hawaii in front of a sunset and got hooked up with an amazing room, you're just going to be bawling your eyes out the entire time.
Well, it's funny you say that because you're not great at burning bridges. I love you, but you're not the one to be like, oh, well then fuck that person if they did something wrong. You know what I mean?
Oh, you mean in terms of like friendships and everything?
Or yeah, just exactly personal relationships. You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm terrible at that. Yeah.
And which is fine. I'm not fully judging you, but it's just funny just because like from an outsider's perspective, yeah, it's easy to kind of write it off as like, oh yeah, he should just be over her,
Yeah, exactly. And so it was just like I'm not trying to make it about me, but it was like interesting seeing you go through that, and I felt like I learned a lot about that process.
Don't you have so much to look forward to?
I know, right? I want to touch on something here. So obviously he goes on that date, not date, whatever you want to call it, with Mila Kunis' character, Rachel, and they hang out at that bar and she makes him go sing the Dracula musical, Dracula's Lament, which is what it's called.
I'm glad you honed in on the title, by the way.
Oh my God. I love this part of the movie so much. But by the way, if anyone wants to, go on YouTube, look up Forgetting Sarah Marshall table read. There's a clip from the table read that shows Jason Segel full on doing that scene in the table read, like cold, like he brought a piano and did it in front of the producers and everything. And I'm assuming this was the table read to kind of like green light the movie. And you just see like both Kristen Bell and Mila Kunis next to him in the table read dying laughing. Like they're just,
oh, that's awesome.
And he like goes so hard in it. Like he like, anyways, I think the reason I bring the Dracula musical up is that obviously this is the anchor to the entire movie, the musical that he hasn't finished, that he keeps procrastinating. And even though I haven't gone through a breakup, I can really relate to the aspect of the movie, which is like when you're approaching 30, you can get very comfortable with your life, especially if you're not like, because when you're in your early 20s, at least I was, if you were the way I was, you're super ambitious. You're like, I want to get my life started as soon as possible. And as you get older, life starts hitting you with different things. And now I'm approaching 30 and I'm kind of taking stock again of my own life. And that didn't happen until you recently moved out. And I think it was because this is going to sound very corny, and please bear with me. In a way, it felt like it was a breakup in its own way. Like it was an end of an era for me, at least, of just being like, wow, my best friend who I met in LA 8 years ago is not just going to be like a 5-minute drive away. You know what I mean? Like this is a huge change. And you were doing something that was so, like, honestly, it was very brave. You were being like, I want to take care of myself. I want to like figure out my own life. And so I'm going to leave what I know and what I'm so familiar with and go into the unknown. And when you did that, it made me want to just be like, what's some stuff that I've been putting off? What is the thing that, like, why did I move to LA? You know? Because I got very comfortable being like, my friend's here. Obviously, I love living in LA because my best friend's here. And now my best friend doesn't live in LA. But I still like it here. I don't want to leave. But why am I here still? And so I had to start asking myself that question. And I feel like this movie, along with it being like literally about a breakup, which causes, like, by the end of the movie, him to take stock of his life and start, like, you know, getting on that treadmill, writing that musical, and then finally putting it up. It was him just being like, man, aside from Sarah Marshall dumping me, I was also just like, I stalled a little bit. And now it's time for me to get my life back, you know?
Yeah. And I think, like, you know, there's, you know, how do I put it? I think, yeah, it's definitely a call to action for anyone who's deep into their adulthood, that it's not too late to still kind of pursue things and continue trying. Because like what you said, it's easy to get like comfortable. But for me, at least, speaking for myself, it's also easy to get tired. You know, when you have more at stake, you have more things to be accountable for. I think it's very much still a wake up, you know, to be like, no, if you could still finish that project you were working on, or that dream that you had when you were in your earlier 20s, you could still chase that. It is not too late by any means, you know?
I think one of the big lessons from this movie is that dreams don't die. They just get forgotten, and you got to put in the work to pick them back up again.
Yeah, they just go to sleep, you know?
That's a great, yeah, exactly. Like, that's why I love the Dracula musical aspect of this movie. As funny as it is, it's also very heartfelt. It's like this guy that's been working on this for a while, and it had to take a major life change to happen for him to be like, oh shit, I need to get on that. Like, because who knows what life is going to throw at me. I got to do what means something to me. You know what I mean? Like, I got to take that jump off the cliff. I got to stop overthinking, you know?
Yeah. Well said.
Can I say how much I love that montage when Jason Segel's like, you know what? I will not have an alcoholic beverage today. And it does that slow zoom in from the table to the couple getting married. And then he like attends that wedding.
Oh yeah. And he's like in the hot tub with everyone having a great time.
I just love that he like showed up at that wedding though. I don't know why. It just makes me happy. Like they're all looking at him too. It's like, who are you?
Oh, I know. But it's still such a clear emotional arc though, because he was so bothered. I mean, you know, I will say though, like early on, I do like that he still softly congratulates, you know, married couples and stuff. Like they don't do the cartoonish, like, you know, oh yeah, fuck them, they're married. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it happens when like him and Kristen Bell have that other argument. He does walk
for
out.
Sure, but it's like a build up to that point, you know?
Sure. I do love that line. It's just like, oh, wedding in Hawaii. How original.
Yeah. Okay. And during that confrontation scene, real quick.
Yes.
One of the lines that I remember really hit me a little bit was when she was kind of telling him everything he wanted to hear at that point. He was like all struggling with wanting to go back, but no, you know, like still whatever, right? He was having his internal struggle.
Right.
Is when he said the line, "Tell me you're sorry." You know?
Yeah.
That line hit me like a fucking train, I think. And it was really quick and in passing, you know, but there was like, again, not giving away details, but like I would fucking kill for something like that. You know what I mean? I have to be okay with no closure for something like this, you know, just to kind of keep it vague still. But
yeah, I know. It's just like Maybe it's because you slept with another man.
Yeah. my way to say my cock doesn't want to be near you.
Are those... Sorry, I'm just jumping around, but it's like, are those sad tissues or happy tissues?
Yeah, that was a good line too.
Okay, so obviously he fools around a little bit with Sarah Marshall, and there has to be that like moment in any rom-com where they have a falling out, him and Mila Kunis. And I think what's really powerful is that he goes back home and he writes that Dracula musical. And like he figures his shit out, you know what I mean? And he has to before like she can come back.
Yeah, he starts rebuilding his life and is healing basically. I think like, I think they said it in 500 Days of Summer when when Tom and Summer see each other again on the bench, that scene.
Yeah.
How she asks, "How are you?" or something like that, like, have you been okay? And he says, "I will be okay."
Yeah.
And I think that's what anyone who goes through something as severe and whatever, as traumatic as that I think that's one of the most important things to tell yourself is like, you don't have to wait to just be okay. Just, you have to know that you're on the path to being okay eventually. You have to learn to sit in that.
So you're saying like, you have to accept that life will do the work. But just accept that it's time,
Yeah, like you need to do the work too, but also it's going to be fucking ugly and that's okay, but you will be okay,
I think I want to read off a little bit of Dracula's Lament.
Okay.
It's getting kind of hard to believe things are going to get better. I've been drowning too long to believe that the tide's going to turn. And I've been living too hard to believe things are going to get easier now. I'm still trying to shake off the pain from the lessons I've learned. Okay, come on. That's like about his breakup. That's about what you just said, all right?
Yeah.
But he's singing it in a Dracula voice, and it's ridiculous, but it is so fucking sincere,
I know. I was like hoping the lyric reading wouldn't stop. I was like getting lost in it. I was listening.
Let me continue. And if I see Van Helsing, I swear to the Lord I will slay him. He take you from me, but I swear I won't let it be so.
That's rad.
And then I'm just gonna finish it up. Blood will run down his face when he is decapitated. His head on my mantle is how I will let this world know how much I love you. Die, die, die. I can't. And then I love the like how it really feels like a true black box theater production.
Oh yeah, it has this little dingy community theater vibe to it. But Bill Hader is like fucking slaughtering his character.
Like he got
like
way
so
too into it. Yeah, well, because at the one point at the end of the play, at the end of the musical number, he just lets go of the puppet, and Jason Segel kind of looks at him. It's like, oh, you're just like you now.
It's just exactly.
Yeah. And then obviously the movie ends. It like kind of has a bookend. Like he gets naked, and they kiss while he's naked, and then it kind of pans out to Dracula and his lover.
I know.
And obviously,
with a little heart closing in.
Yeah, obviously with the song "Inside of You," which is amazing. But
yeah.
What do you think? What do you think the meaning of that is? Of just like bookending it with him being naked again?
I think it's just a simple way of saying like he had his heart broken while he was naked, and now he's having his heart healed while he's naked. It's just like a way to kind of cap it off. Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think there's like, obviously, like you can look deeper into it. There's like a vulnerability that comes with being naked. And also like, showing yourself warts and all is part of that equation. Jason Segel isn't like a bodybuilder. He has a pretty average looking body. He's a good looking dude, but he's whatever. Right. And, so I think there probably is just something to that, that he's just willing to kind of bear himself for someone else.
Yeah. I mean, it's also just like, being vulnerable in one moment, even if it didn't go your way, doesn't mean being vulnerable will always be a bad thing. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Just because the first time he was naked in the movie, it was one of probably the worst moments of his life, doesn't mean that it always has to mean that. You know what I mean? I feel like sometimes we have this like tendency of like, I was too vulnerable there and then I just fucking got hurt. So what's the point? You know?
Yeah. I mean, you know me, bro.
Yeah. And well, I was telling you too, I remember like having that conversation with you of just like, just know you're going to take stock of your own life and you're going to be like, what mistakes did I make? And sometimes it's a good thing to own up to what you did, but not all things about you are bad. And just because it didn't go right with this person doesn't mean that you have to change yourself to find the next person that you fall in love with, you know?
Yeah.
So I do think that aside from it being a great bookend, it does have that meaning as well.
Sure. Yeah.
I love this movie, man. You want to get to the writing?
Yeah. Let's read it. I'm excited because I know we got one and I haven't opened it or read it or anything.
Yeah, so Carly Rich wrote in. Oh, well, by the way, we asked you guys how Forgetting Sarah Marshall changed you, and you wrote in at moviesthatchangedus@gmail.com. To get notified of what movie we're doing next and where you can write us in, you can follow us on Instagram at Movies That Changed Us or subscribe here to our YouTube channel, and you'll get notified in the community post. And we also put it up on our Patreon. So
yeah, so stay in the loop.
Anywhere you can find us, you'll know when to email us.
And we put them out for free on Patreon too. So if anyone wants to get on our Patreon and just follow it for free without paying to join a tier, you can totally do that and you'll be up to date on stuff.
Exactly. So Carly Rich wrote in, the only thing I'll ever remember about this movie is the Muppet musical at the end. I love everything about it. I love the behind-the-scenes story about how it came to be. I love how seriously Jason Segel's character takes it. And I love how funny everyone else thinks it is. Okay, pause for a second. I just gotta say, I do love that moment where he's like, yeah, I kind of didn't know it was a comedy, but once I found that out, it kind of opened up. That's what I love about it. It's like, wow, okay, I guess people are laughing. Let's just go with it.
Yeah, he just leans into it.
And then, okay, continue reading the email now. But the craziest part is that it's actually a pretty good musical, at least from the bits we see. Well written both musically and lyrically. I kind of agree. Okay.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie is pretty forgettable. Oh, okay. But I would have killed to see the original Dracula puppet musical in its entirety. Also, hey, Carly's using the phrase that Chris, I'll say you coined. Also, shouties to Kristen Bell.
Fuck yeah. Thank God, dude. I'm so glad that worked. Thank you, Carly.
Also,
that
shouties
warms my cold heart.
Also, shouties to Kristen Bell, who I just love, even when she's playing a reprehensible character. She's the best. Stay nice, dudes. Carly.
Thank you for writing in, Carly. Appreciate that a lot. I just want to give quick context. I'm sorry, this has just lit me up a little bit. But so I think, did I make up shouty originally?
Yeah, you started it out.
Because I think I said it in passing in a podcast episode we did just to be stupid. And I think I was worried that you didn't like it because you never said shouty on your own. I always kind of push for it. And you'll give shout outs. You'll be like, yeah, shout out to so-and-so. Even this episode, you still said shout out without saying shouty. But then I always kind of, made it my own thing. And I always kind of was insecure that like, oh, maybe this is like Altaf doesn't like it. And I'm just kind of forcing a dead joke. And so it's very reassuring to know that.
To clarify.
One of our listeners really likes it.
Yeah, to clarify, it's not that I didn't like it. I just considered it your thing.
Yeah.
It was something that like I honestly always forgot about saying it, and I considered it like a thing you said. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
I will say that happens a lot kind of throughout. This is okay. I think I like to say stupid phrases. Like I remember when we were doing reactions, I used to say "there's our boy" a lot, and I still say it sometimes, and you still say it sometimes.
Yeah.
But there's a period I remember where we butt heads a little bit because I said it a little too often, and you got bothered by it.
Yeah, I'm trying to be better about that. I'm not trying to be so
No, it's okay. Yeah, it was early on. You and I were,
Yeah.
we were going hard on the reactions, and we were a little, what's the word? We were a little picky, and
Okay. Well, on that note, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for writing in. Thank you so much to our patrons for supporting us again and again. We really appreciate it. And last but not least, stay nice, dudes. Oh, you didn't give a booyah?
No, man. I do booyahs when you don't expect them.
Damn it. Yeah, you actually do always trick me with that. I never know when you're going to do it.